Now, Boeing's stock has been rising and falling with the fate of the 737 MAX and the chief executive, Dennis Muilenburg's public comments. All right, so here we have the stock since year to date. Now, let's look at the high points. Let's actually look at the high points of the stock. You have one back in March. Now, that's when the plane is... That's when it's at its height, if you like. The crashes have just happened, but then you have the fall in the stock price right the way down immediately after that. Move on to early June, and you get a case of Muilenburg expects the return this year. The price rises again in September, and that's also on the back of the prospect of it being given permission to fly once again. And again, each time there are these moments when we're told that the plane might fly again, only to be dashed sharply and shortly thereafter. But perhaps the most extraordinary thing about this share price is the way, considering all the problems, it actually has held up reasonably well into a narrow range, bearing in mind, remember, that's the area before the accident. Now, Boeing builds 42 planes per month. Now, they can't deliver those planes to the airlines. They can't collect payment. And the FAA chief says he told Boeing the plane would not fly this year.
How many times have you heard me say that we're not on any timeline? We're going to follow every step of the process, however long that takes. There are about 10 or 11 milestones left to complete. I understand that a company, a manufacturer in this case, has a project plan with milestones and is devoting resources towards moving things forward. But again, I've made it very clear that Boeing's plan is not the FAA's plan.
Natalie Kitroeff covers Boeing for the New York Times. She's with me now. Good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
If we take Boeing, we seem to have moved into a new phase into this crisis, don't we? How would you describe it?
Well, I mean, you know, we are really at the worst case scenario for the company. And we've gotten to a point where the relationship with the FAA has begun to fray. And you have seen FAA Chief Steve Dickson say to Mr. Muilenburg, this plane's not flying by 2020. Now, that is a direct response to the company continuing to promise, as you've said, that this plane will fly by the end of the year. He's saying, not so fast, that timeline is not reasonable.
What still needs to be done? Because the fix has been put in place. It's sort of being tested. It's been tested in the sim. They've done a few test flights, well, not more than a few test flights with it. So what's holding it up?
Well, there are a number of tests that remain to be done. But most importantly, the FAA needs to determine pilot training for this plane. And that's what Boeing is looking at right now. Will the FAA require simulator training for this plane? Now, keep in mind, the FAA can lift the grounding, but this plane is not cleared to fly commercially until the FAA determines what pilots will need to do in order to be trained on the MAX. Now, that is a big outstanding item, and Boeing earlier this year pushed to be able to deliver the plane before that was completed, and the FAA said, hold your horses, that's not happening.
Until now, the Boeing share price has held up to a large extent because Boeing is more than the MAX. The 787, the 777X, all the other projects, the military, the defence, the space. But I venture to suggest there are real problems now in some of these other projects, like the 777X, which has had to be delayed. Qantas chose the 350 over the 777 for Project Sunrise. So this area of the stench has got worse.
Well, I mean, you have seen Boeing commercial and on the military side dealing with a number of problems that go beyond the MAX. You have the tanker program, which has been plagued by problems of foreign objects inside of these planes. The 777X has had engine issues. You are seeing a confluence of issues and obstacles mounting for the company. That's part of the reason, by the way, that if this shutdown of the line happens, they will not need to furlough because they need bodies in other parts of this company right now.
Why are they going to furlough, or why are they going to shut down production? Is it simply because they've got no room to plant the planes anymore?
Well, they're pumping out planes at a rate of, as you said, 42,
a month,
right?
Yeah.
Okay, these planes are coming out. You are running out of storage space, but it's not just that. You can't deliver the planes if the FAA recently said it is going to be the one that determines the certificate of airworthiness for each one of the airplanes. That slows down the rate at which Boeing can get these planes out to customers. So at a certain point, you're making planes and there's no clear destination or timeline for that destination in place.
Humour me, if you will, for this question. Are we in any shape or form looking at an existential crisis for Boeing?
So I think Boeing views this as the most significant crisis that the company has faced in its history. Now, as you said, Boeing is way more than the 737 MAX, and most outside observers believe this plane is going to fly. So do we believe the company is at risk? No way. This is the biggest manufacturing exporter in the country.
Which is why we're only seeing a 4% drop in the market, not a 15%.
That's right. People, the market is looking at this company and still confident despite everything.
Please come back again and help us understand it. Very grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you.